Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. On today's episode of Daily Palantir, we have one thing and one thing only to discuss: the NHS contract. Ladies and gentlemen, we got the deal. This is the day that we have been waiting for as Palantir shareholders, and it has been almost a 2-year journey of covering this entire saga, seeing it all play out. And then today, November 21st, 2023, it has been decided. Palantir is the winner of the largest federated data platform contract that has ever been created, ever even been attempted to do in the UK for the NHS. So on today's episode, I want to discuss a couple things. Number one, I want to talk about the actual deal itself, what was announced, who is participating in the deal, how much money the deal is worth, because there's actually some controversy that the money is not as much as we thought it was going to be. Number two, I want to talk about the implications of this deal. I've said it many times, but today is one of those videos where it deserves a reminder in terms of why this deal is so important, how this deal is going to implicate the next decade of Palantir's growth, not only as a company, but the healthcare vertical throughout the entire world. That's a $4 trillion industry. I think Palantir is going to be playing a major role in that. And then finally, stock price today didn't do that well. Tomorrow we'll talk a little bit more about the insider selling. I'll spend some more time on that, but stock went down pretty dramatically today, given where it was at its high. And so I want to discuss maybe the news was baked in, talk a little bit about the stock action. Let's get into it. All right, so the deal itself, here we go. This was announced by The Guardian, and this morning we were live on the market open stream, and we saw the news actually break live and saw the price go up, saw the price go down, and really saw all the implications of what it would be for the market to understand this platform. The platform will be based on software that will allow individual health services trust, as well as the NHS's 42 integrated care systems, regional groupings of trust, to talk to each other digitally and share data in an attempt to improve care, cut waiting times, and make the service more efficient. That is kind of the goal of this contract and what this federated data platform is in a nutshell. For example, it will bring together real-time data on the number of beds in a hospital, the size of waiting lists for planned care, and staff rosters to help hospitals do more operations. However, its creation has been overshadowed by conservative Labor and Liberal Democrats MPs, as well as tech, media, medical, and civil liberty groups voicing unease about Palantir, the potential for patients' data to be mishandled, and also whether patients will be able to opt out of the FDP sharing their data. What's really interesting about this is that the NHS has obviously tried to deal with some of these concerns, talk about, why Palantir is a good product, why Palantir is not going to manipulate your data. And apparently today, it had said the day before the announcement that patients would not be able to opt out because it would anonymize old data before it was shared, and also because the data would be used for direct patient care for which no opt-out is available. This is one of the biggest things I saw as the news broke this morning. One of the largest concerns for Palantir not getting this contract was that if they get this contract and most of the patients in the UK don't feel that Palantir is sophisticated enough to handle their data, they're just going to opt out, they're not going to give their data, then the federated data platform becomes worthless, because without the data, there is no platform to conduct operations on. You can't operationalize data if there is no data. Apparently, the NHS made a decision and was like, you know what, we don't think we've marketed this deal correctly enough, and the amount of marketing that non-profits have done to be able to essentially say that Palantir is the most evil company in the world has been much better than we've done to be able to explain why this federated data platform is so important. So we're just not going to let you opt out at this point, because if you opt out, we don't have a platform, and so you just can't opt out, but you get the thing for free. And my perspective on this here real quick is that if someone's giving 70 million people healthcare for free, they also get to infringe on those people's individual rights to be able to say, I want to opt in or opt out, because you're getting it for free. It's like, if you're getting it for free, you can't really have a choice here. You kind of got to go with what the NHS is doing here in order for this to make sense. So that was one thing that is going to take care of some of the concerns of opting out. Now, I think we'll probably see some lawsuits about that and legal challenges, but we'll see where it goes from there. Here's from the NHS's website. The contract award will see investment over the course of 7 years as more trusts join the platform. In the first year, investment is expected to be at least £25 million. Over the contractual period of 7 years, there will be up to £330 million invested in the federated data platform and associated services. I want to talk about that $330 million in a second, but let's read a little bit more from here. No company involved in the FDP can access health and care data without the explicit permission of the NHS. All data within the platform is under the control of the NHS and will also be used for direct care and planning. It will not be used to access data for research purposes, and GP data will not be fed into the national version of the software platform. Pilot projects using the new data sharing approach have seen a drop in wait times for planned care and discharge delays, and have seen faster diagnosis and treatment times. Since introducing the system, North Tees and Hartpool Trust has reduced long-term stays, 21 days or more, by 36%, despite having increased demand, with 7.7% more patients being admitted to the hospital. So the NHS basically made their mind up, I think, honestly, 7-8 months ago, that this was going to be the new direction that they're going in. Rishi Sunak, the techno-optimist leader of the UK, who wants a legacy that actually shows he was able to change one of the hardest things to change, the most bureaucratic things to change in the NHS, in the UK, which is the NHS. I think he wanted to push forward, and he's been getting pressed on many interviews about all the problems with backlogs and wait times in the NHS. At some level, either you privatize it and you start over, or you get a company, give them a lot of money, and be like, look, you guys solve it. And I think Rishi made the decision that Palantir might just be that company. Now, a couple things I want to talk about here on the logistics side, and then we'll go to the implications of this. It says in the next 7 years, the deal is going to be worth £330 million, which is $480 million. We were assuming it was going to be £480 million, which is going to be about $600 million. So the deal came down a little bit. I don't necessarily know if that's because the numbers reported originally, and it wasn't just from me, it was from Bloomberg, Guardian, like all the big kind of companies covering this deal were like, it's a £480 million contract. That's what we were told. Today, it seems to be a £330 million contract. Now, I definitely think that if it's going well and, Palantir's like, hey, we need more money to do this or this, that, like there will definitely be more money that comes into the deal. Because obviously, the NHS, they're the government, they have an unlimited budget, they can keep pumping more money into this. But it was interesting to see that £480 million went to £330 million, and that it wasn't exactly as big of a deal as we thought it was. That can also explain potentially some of the stock price drama today, because if you're expected to get $600 million and you only get $400 million, it's not really the same deal that you thought. And then on top of that, here's another thing. The contract to provide the software has been awarded to a group led by Palantir Technologies. That's what we expected. They're the ones actually making it. With support from Accenture, PwC, NECS, and Carnell Farrer. This is something I did not expect. And I was actually blindsided by this. I did not think that there would be other consulting firms like Accenture and PwC that have their fingers on this contract. What does that mean for how much money Palantir actually gets out of this? If it's let's just call it a $500 million contract, how much is Accenture getting? How much is PwC getting? I think their role in this is going to be implementing. That's what consulting companies kind of do, right? They consult, they implement, they try to figure out processes and logistics. Their role is probably getting hospitals ready, getting patients ready, doing education. There's probably so many things they're doing. How much is that worth? I think it's worth probably less than the tech. But one can make the argument that the tech is irrelevant if you don't have the implementation of it. So is it equal to what Palantir is getting? Is it somewhat less? I would argue it's probably not equal if I had to guess, but it's definitely implying that Palantir is not getting all the money that we thought they were getting. I mean, I thought they were going to get $600 million to Palantir. It seems like that's not happening. Palantir is going to have to share this money with other clients, or other people that are helping implement this for the NHS. So from that perspective, those two things are really important. Patients will probably not be allowed to opt out. The deal size in terms of monetary value has decreased, even though the NHS will probably pump it up with more money if they need to. And Palantir will be having to share some of this revenue with other consulting firms that are going to be helping them building out the entire platform. Here's what CEO Karp said about the deal. This award is the culmination of 20 years of developing software that enables complex, sensitive data to be integrated in a way that protects security, respects privacy, and puts the customer in full control. There is no more important institution in the UK than the NHS, and we are humbled to have now been chosen to provide that software across England to help bring down waiting lists, improve patient care, and reduce health inequalities. It builds on our role supporting the delivery of COVID-19 vaccine and more recently helping individual NHS trusts to schedule more operations. All right, so what does this mean if you're a shareholder of Palantir? I want this explanation to hopefully be valuable for anyone who has been following Palantir for a long time, or if you're new to this video, you're new to the company, I want this explanation to be valuable to you as well, just understanding the implications of this NHS contract. First thing first. Managing 70 million people's healthcare data is not being done by Google. It's not being done by Microsoft. It's not being done by Amazon. It's not being done by Datadog, Databricks, Snowflake, Oracle, Salesforce. It's being done by Palantir. This small little $40 billion company that's been referred to as the most evil company in the world for some reason is now managing 70 million people's healthcare data. That is a big deal. And the reason that's a big deal is because if you are managing an entire country's healthcare system, the implications of that is that your software is ready to do that. Your software has the complexity and nuance to be able to do that. And your software is so much better than the competition because this was a very competitive bidding process. It wasn't a given that Palantir was going to get this deal. It took 2 years for Palantir to finally get the contract. You were better than the competition. And as a shareholder, what I care about is that they actually got the deal done, which is why I truly, and I say this with all honesty, I could not give one shit about how much the deal value was. At the end of the day, I'm a long-term investor in Palantir. I believe in the trajectory for the company. I believe this company can become very big one day. I believe this company can become one of the most important software companies in the world one day. $400 million, $300 million, $600 million, as important as it is, because our growth is not as good right now, it is a drop in the bucket in the broad scheme of contracts we can get in the future. And the reason I say this is because international government growth has not been good for Palantir over the past couple of years. I mean, we're doing about 1.2 billion TTM from the United States, just the United States government. We are not doing that much internationally. The only way you expand to Sweden and Germany and France and all these other socialized healthcare systems, Canada, is you have a use case. You have a 5-year use case, a case study for your platform, your technology, your infrastructure, your implementation, your talent being able to get the job done in one of the places where they've never been able to get the job done. It's been 30 years of spending $10 billion on legacy IT infrastructure to be able to solve the NHS's problems. They haven't been able to do it, which is why I think in the face of all the criticism, all the backlash, all the propaganda, all the, hey, Palantir's the most evil company in the world, the NHS was like, look, you guys can say whatever the hell you want, but we got to do something. And there's no other company that we think could solve the problem, so we're going to give it to Palantir. So to me, if Palantir is able to manage 70 million people's healthcare effectively, and in the next 2 years, they've already shown decreases in wait times and backlogs in a variety of different hospitals that this has been piloted at. If every day in the next 5 years, people wake up in the United Kingdom and they can schedule an appointment and they can get an appointment within a couple of days, if they can call their doctors and they can start, finding out resources about their own healthcare because there's new digital transformation tools within a couple of days. I just think there are so many reasons for why the UK is not only going to be happy, why the NHS is not only going to be happy, but people in the NHS that are not even going to know that their data is being managed by Palantir are going to be so much more happier and healthier, quite frankly, which is really the only thing that matters because of what Palantir software is doing on the back end. If that is the case in the next 5 years, there are going to be other European and non-European, Brazil, one of the largest nationalized healthcare systems in the world, that are going to be like, okay, so we're not going to compromise our socialistic values of making sure everyone in the world has access to healthcare, right? Because we don't believe in sort of the American system of privatized healthcare. We don't believe that healthcare should be something you have to pay for. Healthcare is a right. But we also know that sometimes these systems that are based on social values don't necessarily have the most effective implementation because that's where private and free markets are able to thrive. So if the only way to resolve the inefficiencies of a sort of socialistic system is by technology being the middleman, who has the best technology? Because we don't want to give up our right to healthcare. We don't want that value to go away. And I don't imagine in the next 10 years that value is going to suddenly dissipate across all these countries that have had that value for a long time. It's going to be technology that cuts through and that solves the problem and is sort of the middleman that enables those countries to still have those values, but also still have healthy implementation. That is my bull case on Palantir getting this contract. It's not about the $400-500 million we get from this deal. It's about the billions, tens of billions you could get in the future from other countries around the world. Again, this is not guaranteed, but this is the risk you're taking as an investor. Like, if they do this, do I have the vision in 2023 to see by 2033 that they will be in all these other areas because they were able to do this and because there was zero competition for them to be able to do this? Like, it was a competitive bidding process, but they ended up winning because they were that much better than the competition. And they won a lot of other deals because they were that much better than the competition. Then I think the implications of that writ large across the entire world are going to be massive. That is why this NHS contract is so important, and that's what I think people need to remember. Second thing that really matters about this is, like, look, Europe is big on GDPR regulations and data privacy. So it's just so ironic when all these people are like, Palantir is the worst company in the world. They're going to steal your data, blah, blah, blah. It's like, why would the NHS give them the contract then? The NHS is like the most uptight about data privacy, and like you don't give someone that you think is the most evil company in the world that's going to monetize your data and advertise it and sell against it a contract for $500 million if you think they're going to do that in Europe, which is the most strict on privacy regulations. So as a result of that, I think the NHS realized that Palantir is not what the media says they are. They're actually a company that has some of the best technology in the world, and as a result of that, they got the contract. And I hopefully think that going forward into the future, this narrative of, this political narrative that because Thiel supported Trump and all this stuff that Palantir is the most evil company in the world, I think that will start to die out. Because at the end of the day, you can't keep crying on top of a rooftop if people are getting healthcare appointments in 2 days when it used to take them 2 weeks or maybe even 2 months. So I think that narrative, that's another implication of this deal. That narrative will die down. That's why we needed this deal. And I've been pretty consistent saying that over the past 2 years. Like, we need this deal because politics can't win in this scenario. Politics has won in other scenarios for Palantir. I mean, in Germany, Alex Karp talked about how they're not being implemented as much because of politics. Like, they have lost to politics other times. They should not have lost this time, and they did not lose this time because ultimately the truth won and the best tech wins. And if you got the best tech, you're going to be able to make a big change in the NHS. So Palantir is integrated into the heart of one of the main things the UK government cares about, which is healthcare. how many other different divisions of the government can Palantir get their hands into? And then my long-term bull case, right? Palantir gets into Brazil's healthcare system, Germany's healthcare systems, Canada healthcare systems. All these are hypothetical. I don't know if it's going to happen, but the implication of this happening is they can start working with these governments internationally in a lot of other areas. If Palantir is able to help you with your healthcare, you start to look, and dramatically help you with your healthcare, you start to look as a country like, hey, what else can they help us with? By the way, are they evil? Oh, no, they're not evil. They're actually doing really good stuff. Okay, well, we need some AI in the military. We need this. We need that. We can give them some more contracts that can do some more stuff. Like, there's a starting to be a larger bull case scenario for how so many different governments can start working with Palantir, can start implementing their software within different divisions, and what that means as a shareholder is international government revenue goes up. Because right now, international government revenue sucks. International commercial sucks. US is the core business for Palantir, commercial and on the government side. That needs to grow. Right now, that's not growing. And in order for international governmental revenue to grow, you've got to have relationships with these governments and show them case studies of literally changing entire systems that implicate hundreds of millions of people. I can't think of a better use case or a better case study than the NHS for that scenario. If Palantir shows they can really get the job done, there are going to be deals in the future. This is not to mention Palantir is helping 16% of beds in the United States, powering them within hospitals. This is not to mention the Concordance Partnership, the Cleveland Clinic, the Tampa Bay General, the Cardinal Health Partnership. There are so many different places with supply chains in healthcare, with actual drug discovery in healthcare, with actual research in healthcare that Palantir has their hands into. Shyam Sankar says it's a $4 trillion industry, and Palantir, he said this in 2022, is the most undervalued healthcare startup in the world. I think that's true. I think healthcare is going to be one of those verticals we look back on as investors a decade from now and be like, oh my goodness, they were ready to take over the world with their plans in regards to changing healthcare. And I think NHS is just one step in a long journey of Palantir being able to do something pretty remarkable, which is fix healthcare systems that are socialized, that don't have private competition, with technology to be able to deliver outstanding patient care for citizens. We still have to see if they get the job done over the next 5 years, but it seems like the NHS was pretty confident that Palantir and Palantir only could do it. Not Google, not Microsoft, not these other big trillion-dollar companies. It was little old Palantir. Getting this deal was a big win for us. Getting this deal was a big win against politics. I think all shareholders should be happy for that. And as a result of that, we should be celebrating because Palantir got the job done. Now, quickly on stock price, let me talk about that really quick. Look, stock fell down today. And the reason the stock fell down is because at the end of the day, it seems like the price of this NHS deal was kind of baked into it. On the Morning Open live stream, while we were covering the stock live, we saw the stock go from this 21.85 level that you're seeing right here. We saw the stock go from like 21.40. Really, it was at $20.90 in the pre-market, so it opened up at like 21.30, jumped from 21.40 to 21.85, that new 52-week high. So it was a pretty big move in a matter of seconds. I think that's when the deal just went out across the entire internet, and everyone was like, oh my god, they got this big contract. And then the implications of the deal started to set in, and the market kind of sold it off. So we went down 7.22% today, down another 2% in after hours, $19.42. Obviously $19 still pretty big for Palantir given where we were at early in the year, but that $21 level that we were at, we have come down on because the news was seems like baked in, and as a result sold off. Tomorrow's episode, I'll be talking more about insider selling. Karp, Shyam Sankar, David Glazer, and Stephen Cohen have sold a decent amount of shares. Not a crazy amount, but they did sell. They took some profits. And you would imagine they took some profits given like the stock has run up the way it has. That I think also, regardless of why they sold, people feel like, all right, if management's selling, I should sell some with them. So we'll talk about that more on tomorrow's episode. But regardless, we got the deal. I don't care about the monetary value. I really don't care about the stock action on the deal. I care about the implications of this deal for the next 10 years because I think they're going to be massive. Palantir got the deal. They were supposed to get the deal, and the stock price and the company will eventually follow if Palantir is able to execute on their promise on the deal, which is giving healthcare to UK citizens in a way that they've never been getting that healthcare before. And if Palantir does that, then I think the implications of this deal are going to be massive. I think the stock price will follow over the long term, and it's going to be a pretty awesome thing to see over the next decade how Palantir integrates itself in healthcare throughout the entire world. So we got the deal. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching. I'll see you on the next episode tomorrow.